I have scoliosis and I've had this pretty much all my life. I've had it since I was a teenager when it became quite apparent that I had a curvature, and I used to wear a back brace through my teenage years. Now, the back brace was never going to make it better. It was just making sure that it didn't get worse. Obviously, I still have scoliosis. A lot of adults can get scoliosis through degeneration of the spine later years, or perhaps they were undiagnosed. I don't know if my scoliosis has gotten worse over the years. It hasn't really been tested, and it's not quite obvious if you just see me walking around, or I don't think it is. It's quite obvious when you see it in scans. So, for example, this gym scan here, this was done on my latest gym scan, and you'll see that my shoulders aren't even in it. So I did look back on my previous scan and it wasn't as crooked. So I feel like I must sort of sometimes stand crooked. But you'll see from this DEXA scan how clear it is my spine is crooked. It's imperative for everyone over 50 to be looking after their bones and their muscles. But for me, it's actually critical. As you can imagine, if I got osteoporosis, I would start to crumble into myself. And the same with my muscles. If I don't have strong muscles holding my back, then it's not going to be able to hold my trunk up. Now, my grandmother had it and my auntie had it. It's come down that line. My grandmother did have osteoporosis and it was quite extreme. She was really bent over. It was quite bad. And I obviously do not want to go down that way. So I do actively look after these two areas. Now, I wish I had started earlier looking after them, but I didn't. Before 2 years ago, any exercise I did was bottom centric. So hiking and do a bit of bike riding, treadmill, but it was really all about the legs. And 2 years ago, I started swimming. Now, swimming is an upper body exercise. I mean, obviously it works the whole body, but really it is upper body. And especially for me, I make my legs not move much and use my top half to get me through the water. So that's obviously increasing my muscle at the top. But because I was so weak at the top and needed to be strong, I started weight training in the gym. Now I do this twice a week and I do a full body weight training, but I really concentrate on the upper half extensively. Now, strength training helps both my bone density and my muscle. When you strength train with bone, the muscle pulling on the bone over time starts to make it stronger. Okay. The other thing with bones that increase the density is the pounding effect. So my legs would be strong because of all the pounding that I do on them with walking. Any runner would have that. Now I swim about 3 hours per week. Swimming, and like cycling as well, does absolutely nothing for your bone density. So swimming, because you're in water and there's no resistance, and like on a bike, you're on a bike. So there's none of that pounding effect happening. So it's really important that I keep going to the gym. It's obvious what weights and strength training are doing for your muscles. It's increasing it. But how do you know like what your bone density or your muscle is really like on your body? And I didn't know. I've got a few friends that have come out as they have osteoporosis. I'm in my 50s, so I really wanted to know what is my current health like, especially about my bone density. So the DEXA scan, which I've got a video on, is a scan you can get done. It's not that expensive, and apart from it telling you where your fat is on your body and what type of fat, like is it visceral or is it subcutaneous fat and how much, it can also tell you about your bone density and your muscle. So luckily, both came as good. Now I can tell you that if I'd done this DEXA scan 2 years ago, they may have said I had good muscle strength on the bottom half, but they would have said, you have a problem on your top half. There's no way I would have had a lot of muscle on my top half. They both came back as, like I said, good. Not surprising that I'm stronger in my bone density and my muscle on the lower half. So that just highlights that I need to work more on the top half. Look, but my muscle came back as really quite high, and that's really quite encouraging. And it does say that just doing some strength training really makes a difference. And I've only been doing the strength training for a year and a half. So the kinds of things that I do in the gym for my top half, I do lat pull down. I also do assisted pull-up machine, and that's like, obviously I cannot do a pull-up. One day that's a challenge for me that I really love to be able to. You can use assisted pull-up machines that help you get up and then you lower the weights as you progress to stronger. This way is working my back. This will work my bicep. I sometimes, not all the time, do a back pulling machine. I do a single lat pull down as well. And I work the triceps because they're just incredibly weak. I also use a rowing machine. It came back, the bone density in my ribs was less than the other. So I thought rowing machine, okay, and that'll have some pulling action on it. It's also good for my back. It's a whole body exercise and cardio. What I really probably should be doing as well is probably doing push-ups every day, maybe 30 a day. What's really imperative as well for anyone with scoliosis is to make sure that the core muscles remain strong. So I do a fair bit of core workout. The other thing related to your bone and your muscles that I attention is my nutrition. What I obviously make sure I get enough of is calcium. I have a fair bit of dairy, not over the top, nothing crazy. And I do throw in a calcium tablet when I remember. The thing that I'm very particular about is protein. And I talk a lot about this, but we really need more protein than you probably think. For bone to grow and to rebuild, it does need protein. All our cells that are rebuilding need protein. And obviously my muscles repairing from any exercise that I'm doing and to building absolutely needs protein. So I don't go and chomp on meat every day and all day. That's not really what I'm talking about, but I make sure, obviously proteins in dairy products. I eat a fair bit of beans, say lentils. I just make sure it's mixed up. And I've just started incorporating protein powder, a very raw protein powder, because I just want to make sure I'm getting absolutely enough. The other thing with scoliosis that we don't really think about too much, but I am starting to think about, is the imbalance of the body and making sure we're balanced. And it's really obvious when I do single balancing things on single legs. My right side is stronger than my left side. There'll be two things there. Obviously, it's my scoliosis will be affecting this. But when you have scoliosis, your hips aren't sitting evenly, and people often think they have one longer leg than the other. It's not that, it's that their hips aren't even, and so it looks like one leg's longer than the other. So I'm really working on building up my hip strength and my glutes, and we'll keep doing balancing exercises, because the last thing that I want is to fall down and break a bone, and obviously the worst bone that I'd want to break would be my back. If anyone else is out there and they have scoliosis, I would love you to share what it is you're doing, and especially if you can give me some tip that I've not really thought about. Please comment, and I hope that me sharing my journey helps you sort of think about ways that you can make sure that it doesn't get worse, or the health of your scoliosis as you're in your 50s and beyond.